Welcome, everyone. Today we are going to have a short but focused demo that showcases how we can use Meta Report Composer to build structured, automated, and highly professional reports directly from simulation data. This is all about building a smart template once and reusing it again and again across different variants, models, and simulations, with little to zero manual editing involved. We'll focus on the key building blocks such as variables, built-in functions, session preparation, and 3D export capabilities. The goal here is not just to show results, but to demonstrate how we can automate the entire process of report generation. So instead of manually creating plots, inserting images, or copying values into PowerPoint, we define a template once and let Meta do the rest. On the left, you see the reality of manual reporting. It's time-consuming. After every simulation, you have to capture images, paste them into slides, and update numbers by hand. It's prone to errors. Copying values across different tools makes it easy to make a mistake. It's inconsistent across variants, especially when you're managing many models or team members. And finally, it's hard to scale. If you're running 10 simulations, generating 10 consistent reports by hand becomes fast a full-time job. Now, compare that to what we can achieve with Meta. It's fast and repeatable. You define the logic and structure once and reuse it as many times as you need. It's consistent and traceable. The same process runs every time, so there's no variation between reports unless you explicitly change the data. It's parametrized via variables, so things like the project name, simulation type, all of that can quickly be updated. And most importantly, we use reusable templates that are driven by structured data, not manual edits. Today we will focus on session preparation, built-in functions, variables, and some of the 3D exporting capabilities of Meta. We are going to see how we can create reports using reusable templates, how we can create tables that auto-update when using different results, how we can add images on reports, how we can use Meta variables to our advantage. And finally, we will see how we can export 3D content from Meta and import it in PowerPoint. The key concept here is that the report is not static. It is a dynamic template. By simply changing the input data, whether it is a new variant or a different configuration, the report updates automatically. This is where the real power comes in. We are not duplicating sessions, we are not building new slides. We use the same session, the same template, and just update variables. This means I can go from variant A to variant Z with little work, and all reports are consistent and ready to deliver. Let's start with a template we created for the purposes of this demo. You can either create this template on PowerPoint or on Report Composer. Straight from the start, we can see that this is not a filled-in report. We have placeholders for project title, simulation type, and several other fields. These placeholders are Meta variables and will be automatically populated during the report generation time. The advantage of these placeholders is that we avoid typos, maintain consistency, and automate repetitive metadata across multiple slides. In the second slide, we follow the same principle. At the top, we have some variables, and then in the main body, we have an image placeholder. The image placeholder not only helps us visualize the layout of the slide, but also assists in adjusting the image's size and position easily, so we don't have to manually modify it when adding new images. We also have tables that contain expressions known as built-in functions. These functions automatically calculate results for specific entities in Meta. The main advantage is that we don't have to manually recalculate values every time we load a different results file. As soon as the required data is available in Meta, the built-in functions update the results automatically. The rest of the slides follow the same structure. Each one includes image placeholders, variables, and built-in functions. After we defined our template, the next thing we need to do is open Meta and create a new session. We are going to create a new presentation and load the template we have just created in Meta. After the template is loaded, we will need to start creating the variables we need for the report. The easiest way we can do this is to go in Database Browser, select Variables, and from there, click New and insert the variable name and value. For this example, we will go with Project Title. The variable value will be Side Crash Analysis Report. Once we press OK, as you can see, the variable is created and is passed in the presentation. And this is the advantage of the variables. We can use the same variable in many slides, and we don't have to manually edit each of the slides for an update. We can just update the variable, and it will be automatically updated in all of the slides. The next thing we'll do is load a model along with its results. This process may take a few seconds, depending on the model's size and the amount of data it contains. Once the model is loaded, let's assume that we want to include an image of it in my report, something that's often useful for giving visual context to the results. To do that, we'll first isolate a specific part of the model, in this case the firewall, so we can focus only on that area. Next, we'll switch to the front view, enable scalar results on nodes, and set the scalar field to display deformation in the X direction. In order to add this image on our report, drag the image and drop it on top of the image placeholder. Meta understands we are trying to replace the image, and a message is generated. The first option will just add the image on top of the existing placeholder. The second will replace it. In case we select the second option, we have some sub-options. The last will replace the existing placeholder while maintaining its aspect ratio. We will now take a closer look at built-in functions and how they can help automate calculations in your report. In this example, we'll be working with 2D plot results. A typical use case is the energy plot, which is commonly used to track kinetic, internal, and total energy during a simulation. Just like we did earlier with the model images, we'll start by inserting a snapshot of our 2D plot into slide 3. We will use the same option when asked about replacing the image placeholder. Right after that, we'll look at the corresponding table next to the plot. We notice that as soon as the curves are loaded in Meta, the table is instantly updated with calculated values. Creating these expressions is also straightforward. All we have to do is right-click on a table cell and choose Built-in Functions from the menu. This brings up the built-in function window. On the left-hand side of the tool, we have a list of available entity types, such as nodes, elements, curves, and more. For this example, we'll work with curves. In this case, we'll pick Curve 3 from Window 1. Next, we select the result we're interested in, for instance, the y value, at the last point of the curve. As soon as we do that, Meta generates the corresponding expression at the bottom of the dialog. From there, we have two options. We can either copy and paste this expression directly into our PowerPoint template, or we can insert it through the Report Composer tool. Either way, the expression will remain dynamic. The key advantage is this: the next time we open the same template and load a different set of curves, all the values in the table will update automatically. No extra effort required. This not only saves time, but also ensures consistency and accuracy across reports. From this point on, the rest of the post-processing may vary depending on the individual user's needs and preferences. Each person might choose to include different plots, images, or specific results, depending on what they want to highlight in their report. However, by the end of the process, everyone should more or less arrive at a similar outcome: a complete session where all the necessary commands and elements for automated report generation are in place. This session serves as the backbone of the report, containing everything needed to populate the template quickly and consistently each time new results are loaded. It is evident that if we want to run the same session for another version of our model, it is not efficient to change individually all of the hard-coded file paths inside my session. To address this, we can parameterize our session using variables. This means that all the hard-coded file paths will be replaced with variables. Select the set parameters and click on File Names. Meta will scan the session file and list all the available file paths. We will select the report template file path, ensure the custom name option is activated, click on Static Parameter, and provide a name to the variable. We will go with report template as variable name. We can see that at the top of the session, a new command is added. This is the command for creating a new variable. Also, at the line where we used to read the report template file path, we have replaced it with the variable we just created. To improve our workflow, especially since we're using variables both in the session and in the report, it's a good idea to create a separate session file that contains only variable definitions. This file acts as a central place where we define all key inputs, such as the project name, simulation type, file paths, and any other values that might change from one run to another. Instead of editing these values through the main session, we isolate them in a single, easy-to-maintain file. In the main session file, we then use the command read session to load this variables file. This command brings in all the variable definitions at once, without cluttering the core logic of the session. By keeping variable creation separate, we avoid accidental changes to the session and ensure consistency. Next, we will execute the session. Meta will start running the session, generating the report. The execution time can vary depending on the size and complexity of the session. Sessions that include large models, a high number of plots and tables may take a bit longer to process compared to simpler cases. Once the session execution finishes, the report is generated. We can see that everything has been successfully added to the report. All placeholders have been replaced with actual values, built-in functions have been fully evaluated, and all images have been automatically inserted in their designated positions. Now, let's talk a bit about the exporting capabilities of Meta for 3D content and how we can include this content in our PowerPoint reports. Meta supports a variety of interactive export formats, the most commonly used being GLB, HTML3D, and project files for Meta Viewer. First, let's start with GLB. This format is ideal for embedding lightweight 3D models directly into PowerPoint. To export a GLB file, we simply go to File, Export, Model, and from the file type select GLTF, provide a name, and press Save. In our example, the session has already taken care of exporting a GLB file that represents the firewall component of the model. In Report Composer, we can insert the GLB file through the Presentation ribbon tab by selecting 3D Model. This will import the exported GLB file into the Report Composer. Next, we'll see how we can insert a Meta Viewer into our report. We first need to save a project file from Meta. This is done by going to File, Export, Project. For the purposes of this demo, we've already saved a project file in advance. Now, to insert the Meta Viewer object into the slide, we go to the Presentation ribbon tab and select Meta Viewer. Once the object is added to the slide, in the Meta Viewer Style contextual ribbon tab, we select Edit. In the pop-up window that opens, we click the Open button and select our previously saved project file. This will insert the project file in our Meta Viewer object. Now, let's switch over to PowerPoint and inspect both the GLB model and the Meta Viewer object we added. First, we can see that the GLB file was successfully imported into the slide. We're able to view and rotate the model directly within PowerPoint, making it easy to showcase geometry and results during a presentation. To view and interact with the Meta Viewer, we'll need to start the presentation in presenter mode. Once we do that, the Meta Viewer launches with the project file we linked earlier, giving us full interactive access to the model, including all capabilities of the Meta Viewer. Finally, let's talk about exporting in HTML3D format. To do this, we go to File, Export, Model, and select HTML3D. For the purposes of this demo, our session has already exported an HTML3D file. To add this to our report, we can start by inserting a text box into our PowerPoint slide. From the Insert tab, select Text Box. Type in a short label to let the viewer know what the link does. Then right-click on the text box and select Link from the menu. From there, we simply browse and select the HTML3D file. When we click the link during the presentation, the web browser opens and loads the 3D model. Inside the HTML3D viewer, we have access to a fully interactive environment. We can inspect the model in detail, rotate and zoom in on specific components, play animations, and focus on areas of interest at part level. We can also change labels to explore different result types and take advantage of several other built-in tools, all directly within a web browser, without needing to open Meta. An alternative option is to embed the HTML3D file directly into the presentation. From the Insert tab, click Object, then choose Create from File, click Browse, select the HTML3D file, and press OK. This creates an embedded link to the file, and the HTML3D content becomes part of the PowerPoint file itself, making it easier to share. To wrap up, what we've seen today is how Meta Report Composer enables a powerful shift from manual, repetitive reporting to a fully automated and structured process. By using variables, built-in functions, reusable templates, and 3D export options, we can generate dynamic reports that automatically adapt to different models, variants, and results, all while maintaining consistency and saving time. While today's demo focused on generating a report through a session, it's worth mentioning that Meta also provides a powerful Python API, which can be used in combination with sessions and all the other capabilities we saw today, enabling even more advanced automation workflows.